So I was gonna start editing this video, and then I realized that the intro video that I recorded originally was awful. The lighting was awful. The video quality, for whatever reason, was awful. I think because of the lighting. So here I am re-recording this. So the day that I recorded that intro video, I was sharing with you how I tend to think about my creative projects in a way that they seem in my head to be like museum art pieces. And not because of how beautiful they could be, I mean also because of that, but because they do feel like they're these huge undertakings. And what ends up happening is that a lot of times I start and then I don't follow through with the middle or end of the project because it just becomes so overwhelming, or because they are just these giant ideas that it seems that it's so big and so huge that I would never finish, or it's just overwhelming to even start thinking about the dimension or the size of what I'm thinking. Sometimes it's not just like the size itself, but the level of detail, the level of complexity and whatnot. And that is very, very real for any type of beading project that I have thought about. Interestingly enough, when I recorded this video, the day after I recorded the original intro, not this one, but the original, I went to a show by Dolce & Gabbana here in Miami. And they have, I think it was like 4 levels of garments that they have created. Well, it was garments and jewelry that they have created. And a lot of them included beads, beading, embroidery, cross stitches. I mean, you name it, anything fiber arts. And it was incredible to witness. But once I got there, I was like, this is what I mean. This is the type of things that I think in my head that I want to create, but they're so overwhelming that I don't end up creating them. I will actually be sharing in this video some clips of the things that I saw in that show that were absolutely beautiful. So all this to say that I originally wanted to create this video to satisfy the urge that I've been feeling to create something with beads. And because I didn't want to start again a huge project that I would never finish or that it would be too overwhelming to even start, I thought about creating something like this that I have been seeing in my Pinterest board. And I think it's so cute and doable to begin and finish within an hour or two. Because I'm recording this in the future after I have created this project, I can tell you that it is indeed something that I can do within 30 minutes at this point because I have done so many. Another thing that I wanted to say is that initially this video was basically just me tackling this project and just taking you along the process. But it turned out that at the end, I was like, you know what? I think I can make this into an actual tutorial and show people how to make this charm. Because I've seen a lot of people talk about wanting to do something with their hands, a craft or fiber arts like crochet or knitting or sewing or things like that. But the idea of starting a big project like that is, again, sometimes overwhelming, or you simply don't have the access to that amount of hours, the capacity in this moment. So I thought this would be a great project for anyone that wants to work with their hands, do a craft, and just basically create something beautiful. Okay, I think that's it. Let's get into it. So these are all the beads that I have. I mean, aren't they absolutely beautiful? I am so happy to just even look at them. They make me so happy. So I'm gonna go online and see if I find any inspiration. I know that I can potentially create my own little designs, but I don't know if that is something that I should tackle today. Because again, I really want to finish something today. Another thing that I usually face when I'm starting projects and ideating, brainstorming what I want to do with them creatively, like my own self-expression, even within one specific craft, like what I'm doing today, is that I want to make something different than whatever I'm seeing or whatever the inspiration is, for multiple reasons. One, because I don't want to copy what someone has already created because it feels disrespectful. but also because I guess there's something in me, whether that is my ego or maybe it is what pushes me like creatively, but I'm like, no, I cannot make the same. However, when I look back at the things that I've done before, and for example, like my stationery company, when I started by really trying to imitate what other people were doing. And in the process of doing that, I found what I liked and what I didn't like. So I try to remind myself of that, because as long as I am very cognizant of that and I am being very respectful and honest about the process, then it's okay to try and experiment with something that other people have done, because then the focus and the energy goes towards, let's try to understand what this craft and technique is about. And then once that is kind of like settled, it's almost like first we build like the highway. Once that technique is like understood, then I think that allows for room for creativity to say like, oh, okay, this is how we can make it our own. So I'm going to allow myself, against everything that I'm feeling inside, because it's really uncomfortable for me to actually do something that someone else has done. I am going to allow myself to do that. I'm going to actually grab one of these exact little pendants that I see here. Probably the one with the flowers. Let's see. Like this is the one that I've been seeing the most. I should probably just put the pictures on the screen, on the video when I'm editing, but I guess that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to allow myself to do that, but I did want to share that with you because, again, these are all things that I go through that maybe you go through as well. And sometimes we just have to allow ourselves to do things that feel uncomfortable. And sometimes we just have to let go of those ideas that are kind of like blocking us to start. So I'm just gonna not overthink it. I'm gonna start with doing that, and maybe as I'm doing that, like copying that design, I will have ideas of what else I can do that is different than what I have seen already in the pictures that I have looked for and the inspiration pictures that I've gathered too. Okay, I'm putting it here so you could see it, because if I put it on my hands, I think it kind of gets lost. It's so tiny. Okay, so I don't love the color combination. I think the pink is just like, kind of disappears. It doesn't really stand out. So I think I'm gonna do another one.
Summer blush across your cheeks, flowers in my hair. Sunday morning, hand in hand, I think we understand. Must be love, la 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 la. Must be love, la 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 la. Must be love, la 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 la. Sometimes you're white, sometimes you're all blurred up. Dancing shadows, racing hearts with me.
So a few days have passed, maybe even a couple of weeks now, since I started to record this video, and I said that I wanted to tackle a small project because I tend to just make all my projects and my ideas this huge undertaking. And I have partly achieved that because I have created many, many little charms in the days that have passed since. However, I have made this a huge undertaking, and I decided in the process that, you know what, I have actually played so much with this at this point. I bought more beads because I realized that I didn't have enough, or I didn't have any blues, I didn't have enough greens, I just wanted more options. And so I thought, let's actually make this video something that you could use to make or recreate this step by step. And I'll tell you exactly what I used. I'll tell you what I've learned. So I have played with 3 different designs that were inspired by cross-stitch patterns that I found on Pinterest. They're not exactly what I saw, and they're not a replica of something that someone else has done, at least not that I found in the research that I did. I feel a little bit more confident sharing a design that I kind of like played with myself and I created it to make into a bead charm. So I'm going to take you along the process and I'm going to show you how I played with the design, how I've been choosing the colors, because that surprisingly has been difficult. Even though I have plenty of colors to work with, that has been key to choose the right colors. Okay, so I am using Adobe Illustrator, and as you can see, I have the 3 different designs, but I'm gonna focus just on this one. If you don't have Illustrator, you could possibly use Canva and use a square element to create this kind of grid that I created here. Essentially what I have here is multiple square shapes that have been organized or placed as a grid. So basically I brought my little square here and then I copy and drag that square over here. And I made sure that the distance between each square is exactly the same as I keep copying the shape as I go. So this is all you have to do. And in this case, we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares horizontally and 10 squares vertically. And I like to start with the colors that I'm gonna use. And for that, I first looked at the bead colors that I wanted to use, and then I brought that idea here. And basically what you could do, let me just copy this and start from 0 and pretend that I'm starting from 0. So I start with my squares with the same color, and then I just start playing with it. I start choosing random squares in that grid and start to change the colors. So if I wanted, I could just start creating that, like a little flower there, a little leaf in my flower. Maybe I can do another one here, another big flower. And basically we just have fun with it in this way. And something that really helps is to zoom out and see how it's looking. That gives a better idea of the designs. As you can see, I have the other designs here that I worked on. And that is basically all of the brainstorming that I've done. I also got a notebook with a square graph grid. And I was going to start playing with my color pencils, but I felt like the digital option to move things around and move colors around was easier. Sometimes I feel like the analog approach is the right one for a specific project, and sometimes the digital one just makes it easier. So whatever works best for you and whatever gets your creative juices flowing is what is going to be for you. Okay, so now as a reminder, this is the design that I'm going to be showing you how to recreate with a small revision, adding another line to the bottom and removing one at the top. So I'm gonna put the design here on the screen so you can follow it, you can screenshot it, and you can recreate this for your personal use as well. That is if you don't feel like playing with a specific design that you wanna create yourself. So these are the materials that we're gonna be needing. First of all, this is the thread that I'm going to be using. These are the beads that I'm going to be using as well. I'm going to add all of the information on the description of this video with the specific websites of where I bought this. We're going to need the beading needle, so it's a very thin one so that it can go through the tiny little beads. And we're gonna need little scissors to cut our thread. If you want to make this into a necklace, I will talk about those materials later in this video. Okay, so the first thing that you're gonna need is to cut your thread. And I am using a 35-inch long thread. Again, we're using the Fireline thread. I put this dark book here because it helps with the contrast, and I think that you'll see the whole process better. I have this little, I don't even know what the name is, but this little holder that is for beads, and it has the little foam here that basically helps the beads stay in place. But you can use a little piece of fabric, you can put it straight on the surface that you're working with, whatever really helps you keep your setup kind of organized. So I'm gonna keep this here, I think. And I'm going to start putting my beads, the ones that I'm going to be using here. So I mainly need this one because this is the background. I think that's plenty of beads. I'm using a different green that I used here, and I know it has less contrast, but there's something about this green that makes the charm look a little, I don't know. I want to see. I want to risk it and go with something that has less contrast. And I say that I'm going to risk it because what I found making all of these charms is that contrasting colors are really key to these charms to get that, to make that design come to life. Okay, you'll notice that I have this bead here. I'm gonna be using this bead as a stopper bead. That's gonna make more sense in a second. So we're going to thread our needle and we're gonna leave something like a 6-inch tail over here. And we can just kind of like break that thread a little bit there so that it stays in place. Now we're going to use our stopper bead, which is again, the bead that I just showed you. In my case, I'm using this bright pink. You can use something that is a different color. We're gonna end up removing this bead at the end. So it doesn't have to go with our design or anything. In fact, it would be better if it's just clashing so that we know where that is. Now from here, my tail is on the left side and I'm going to go through the left side of my bead. And then I am going to hold the bead there and I'm going to pull the thread all the way there to a point where my bead is basically secured there, almost as if it was a knot. And I am going to do that again. So my tail is over here. I'm going to go with my needle through the left side, which again is the side where the tail is. I'm going to pull the thread. And that is because this is my stopper bead. So once I start creating my design here, this bead is going to stop the other beads from moving. So I'm going to show you something here really quick. We're going to begin on this edge. And the way that we're going to make this charm is basically going up from here down, and then we go up again in the next row, and then down in the next row. So you can start here, you can start here. It doesn't really matter, or here, in any corner. You just need to know where you started so you can follow that flow of up and down, okay? That's something to keep in mind. Okay, so back here. So I'm gonna begin on the left bottom corner of this design. So I'm going to start with putting all of the color beads that I need for that row in my needle. So I'm gonna start with the ivory, pink, ivory, and then 7 burgundy. So I have all of my beads here, and then I'm going to move them all the way down to meet the stopper bead. This is the only row that we're gonna do like this. From here on, we have to add every single bead individually. If you've never worked with beads before, and if you are not someone that likes working with very small things, you can definitely try to work with bigger beads to begin with so that you can get used to working with it. So now we're in our second row from top to bottom. So I'm holding my beads with one hand. I'm gonna grab the next bead from the top second row. This is the first bead from the second row, and I'm gonna go through the top side of the bead, the last bead that I'm holding here in this row, and I'm going to pull everything through. Pull the thread through all the way until it's very secure. Okay, something that is going to become a little bit annoying is this tail. So you can kind of wrap it around your fingers so that it's out of the way. So as you can see, our first bead is there, but now this is not complete. This is half, we can think about it as a stitch. This is half a stitch. To complete and to secure this bead here, we now have to go through the opposite side. So bottom, so from the bottom towards the top, and then pull the thread through. And now that's going to secure my bead there. The second row is probably the hardest because it wants to take shape, but it also wants to not take shape as you start with the beads. We need some patience in this process. Okay, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4 more burgundy beads. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. I'm gonna grab my next bead. Now on the second bead, I'm gonna go from top to bottom, pull my thread all the way. And then to complete that and secure that bead, I'm gonna go from the bottom to the top. And I'm sorry that as I pull, I have to kind of like hide the work from you, but that's how you make sure that it is tight. And every time that you add a bead there, you wanna make sure to pull the thread really tightly so that the beads are nice and secure and tight there. See, so we have 4 now. We have 2, and again, this is the top of our design. So this is gonna be like this. Okay, so let's do that again. Another burgundy bead. Now I go through the third one from the left side, the third one from top to bottom, pull my thread through. Something happened here. There you go. Sometimes you have to help them. As long as you start to see each row separately. And sometimes what's going to happen is that the beads are going to flip over and then you're going to end up with the work on the left side of your hand. Make sure that you bring it back again to the right side so that you can really see the work, so that you can really keep everything in place and work properly. Let's finish that third bead, bottom to top. Make it tight. Our fourth. Then our fourth bead, top to bottom, pull it through, and then bottom to top. Okay, so we're gonna keep doing this all the way until we complete this second row. So I made a mistake and I needed to add a 5th burgundy bead here. So I figured I would show you how to unravel your work. So the first thing that you're gonna do if you wanna unravel, you're gonna remove the thread of your needle. So you're gonna leave that long thread loose. Then you're gonna use your needle and you're gonna bring it through the last little thread that is under the one that you brought from bottom to top, and you're gonna pull that out of that bead. Then you're gonna put the needle through the bead and you're gonna pull the bead out. And that's how you remove it out of there. So our second row is done. I'm gonna flip that again. And I'm gonna start my third row from bottom to top. So I need 3 burgundy. Go from top to bottom. Pull. And bottom to top. And continue this way until finishing this row. So my third row is done and you can start to see the design is so exciting. I think it's so cute. Okay, so then we do exactly the same thing. We turn over and then we begin from top to bottom, our 4th row. You're gonna continue doing that top to bottom all the way until the end. And I will see you once you have finished your charm. Remember to keep pulling tightly so that the structure of the charm is more rigid and solid. All right, so at this point, you may have already finished your charm. This is how mine turned out. And I still have my thread, still with my needle, the end of my thread. This is how much left I have. And it may be a long thread, but I'd rather have more than run out of thread. And then that is a whole deal that I've experienced before. And it's just annoying. And I'm not gonna cover in this video how how to do that. So it's better to have a long thread. And we also have the little tail that we started with our stopper. So now if you want to make this into a necklace, I'm going to show you a couple things that we can do to make that happen. Don't cut your threads yet. We have to weave those through our work to secure them. There's a couple things that I want to mention about the necklace and making this. I'm going to be using chain, and unfortunately, I don't have a good quality chain. I bought this at Michael's and I'm not even sure what type of material this chain is made out of. But if you're buying chain and you want this necklace to last you, you do want to buy a chain that is gold plated or silver plated. So again, one of the methods that I'm going to show you is basically connecting the chain directly to the charm with the tails of the thread that we have left over. And the other option is going to be with these little jump rings, which are the little rings that you see here at the end that I've used. I don't love the look of this one as much. However, this seems like more technically correct, but I think that there are many ways to do things. Finally, the third option, which I haven't actually tried, and I will be trying that for this video, we will be using these head pins, and they look like this. So they basically look like a little needle. They don't have any holes, but one of the ends has this flat end, which is where the bead is going to stop. And with this pin, we're also going to be using this tool, which is called a one-step looper tool. Another thing that you may need, depending on the length of the necklace that you're making, is a clasp with another jump ring to close your little necklace. This type of clasp is called a lobster clasp. I just learned that. Cute. I can see it. If you're using chain and jump rings, you will be most likely needing some tools. This type of pliers, these are chain nose pliers. I didn't know the names of any of these things. I've actually had to research the name of them for the video, which is pretty helpful. And not so necessary, but useful would be this other type of pliers, which are a round nose plier. So again, in this video, I will be using chain because that's kind of like the look that I want for it. But you could also use like a little string. You could use something that is not a chain so that you don't need all of these extra things. And basically what I would do is that I would do the first option that I'm going to show you, which is basically using the tails of the charm to kind of like connect whatever string you're using, and that would be it. All right, so at this point, I'm going to grab my chain and I'm going to decide what is the length that I want for my necklace. And I think I want it around here. Okay, I'm gonna flip the camera. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do, holding the chain where I decided I wanted to cut this. Okay, so depending on the quality of your chain, you may be able to use scissors to cut this chain like I just did. And you want to grab your chain nose pliers, or again, if you can just do this with your hands, that's totally okay. You can kind of pull to finish opening that little chain that you cut. And now I have the chain that I'm going to use, the length that I'm going to use. Before we continue with the chain itself, I want to show you what to do and where we want to place our thread if you are using the thread to connect the chain or the string that you will be using. So first, but one step back again. If you feel like your charm doesn't have a lot of structure and it's quite flimsy and you have a thread long like this, you may be able to just go through some of these rows. So you're going to put your needle through all the way and thread that to give your charm a little bit more structure. You don't want to do too many passes because one of my beads actually broke, and I think it's because I did too many passes and the bead kind of like just bursted. Okay, I'm not going to do too many because my charm feels pretty solid, but something that I'm going to do is that I basically want this still to end up here in this top corner, top right corner. And that is because, again, I'm going to add my chain here. So I'm going to go through this second row from right to left, but instead of going all the way up, I'm going to put the needle through. Can you see that? At around 3 beads before the top. And then I'm going to pull that. And then I'm going to go on the right side, on the right row, and I'm going to put my needle through the bottom of that third one from top to bottom and pull this through. That way I can have my thread where I want it. Now we're gonna do exactly the same thing with this tail. And to remove the stopper, we're gonna do something similar to what I showed you before when we were unraveling. So we wanna go through one of the threads. Not that one. That was probably the first one. If you feel a lot of resistance, then it's you can pull the other one. Yep, there you go. And then you can pull the thread through. And then through the other one. Okay, so the chain that I'm using is actually so thin that the little loops that make the chain are too small for my needle, and my needle doesn't even go through. So it just gets stuck there. So I'm going to remove the thread off the needle. So I'm just going to manually basically thread that through. However, here I need my needle. So yes, it is annoying, but I actually find that I like the look of this version better than using the jump rings on the corners. It will be really helpful also if my thread was not so fussy. And I'm being lazy and I'm not fixing that. Okay. And what I want to do is basically I want to create like a little ear here. So I am going to attach that here. And then again, I'm going to go through the chain. Did I go through? Through the chain. Okay. And then needle again. This is annoying. Again, is this technically correct? I don't know, but I like this. So again, I want a little ear loop situation. And I'm gonna do that like 2 or 3 more times because my tail is actually not too long and I need leftover thread to weave that through my charm to secure that. That will make more sense in a second. The last little ear loop that I'm creating here. One last time through the chain. And then we're gonna weave this tail through the charm. Okay, so it's through the chain again. Now, instead of creating another loop, what I wanna do is that I'm going to put my needle from top to bottom from that second bead. And I'm gonna bring it out maybe around here because again, my tail is not too long. And basically what I'm looking to do is to thread this little tail through here, up here, and maybe loop it around these beads so that it is secure. Okay, so let's pull that through. My tail here is way too small, so it's kind of annoying. Now, from the bead right next to where my tail is coming out of, I'm gonna go up, maybe 3, okay, and then pull it up. And then we're gonna go down again from the one that is next to where the tail is coming out. And I think this time I wanna go all the way down because I see that this is kind of like doing something funny, was moving and deforming, I guess, the charm a little bit. Pull it. And so I basically just want to hide this thread as much as I can. I think I'm going to pull it up all the way up here And then I can just cut whatever is remaining. Okay, so now that I threaded it, I'm gonna pull it all the way up, up, up. And actually, I think that I have enough to bring it down this row. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing and then thread it here. And pull it up. And that's kind of like the last bit of that tail. So we have the right side of our chain done. And we're gonna do exactly the same thing on the left, only this time I'm gonna have a lot more thread to work with, so it's gonna be easier. My chain is connected to both sides of my charm, as I showed you before. And now I am going to split the chain here. So I'm gonna break it. Again, your scissors should be fine. So now it is separated. And I'm going to be using jump rings to attach the clasp and another jump ring at the end of the chain. If you do use jump rings, you have to remember that the chain is 1 millimeter, at least the one I'm using, or whatever you're using, you need to make sure that your jump ring fits through the loops of your chain. Okay, things are so tiny that it is really hard to show you, but basically you just want to put your jump ring through there and then close your jump ring. This is where having 2 pliers actually helps. It is closed there. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, except I'm going to put the clasp through the jump ring as well. Okay, and my necklace is done. My clasp. Cute. Okay, so for the other 2 options, I'm just basically going to show you how to prepare this or create this into a charm, but I'm not going to show you how to make the whole necklace because essentially you would just apply what I just did in the first option, where we just basically put the chain through the jump rings, and that's how you create your necklace. I'm grabbing my nose pliers, chain nose pliers, I believe. And I'm just using my finger to create the opposite, opposite fours. So I'm bringing the pliers towards me and then I'm pushing with my finger the opposite way. So on that direction, so that I can open this jump ring. See? So it is now open. Probably hard to see there. And basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to find the corners. Maybe this way is easier. I'm going to flip it. And I'm just going to bring that through or put that through my bead. And then at this point, if you have a chain or again, anything else that you're working with, you can just loop this or loop your chain, string, whatever you're using through this jump ring, and then you close it. You would do exactly the same thing on this side. Okay, so finally for the last one, we're going to be using the head pins, which again, they look like this, like a little needle with a little flat end. And we are going to find the middle of our charm, which is this. And for this option, we need to be cognizant to not add too many threads or too many loops through these beads here, because we need enough space for this to go through. And then we're going to grab this tool, which again, the name is the Original One-Step Looper. And we're going to put it through here. There's a little hole there. And once I am close enough to the edge of the beads here, I'm going to close, whoop, lost it. I'm going to close this, and the tool really just does all the work. See, and then I end up with a little loop there. I need to close it a little bit more with my pliers so that it closes the loop fully. And that is essentially it. I had tested it with this one. And basically you just put your chain through that little loop that you created and you have your charm. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful and inspiring to make something tiny, something small, something that you can actually achieve in a few hours. Yes, you will need a few materials, but even if you just want to make the charms to feel like you're making something and you can put them in like a frame or whatever it is, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller if you want. There are so many options to make with this. I just personally like wearing the things that I'm making. I'm in a season where I like wearing and using the things that I'm making because that is an incentive enough for me to actually keep me moving and following through my ideas. I also think that these are perfect for gifting so that it's not necessarily a craft in which you create things and just hoard everything that you make and then you don't know what to do with it, because a lot of times that happens with crafts or with anything that is handmade. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you make cute little charms, cute little things. Use your hands. We are living in a moment in time where this type of activities bring us to the present. They allow us to feel what is real and tangible. And I feel like our brains in so many ways are wanting and craving that because there is so much happening that so many things we don't know if they're real. The things that are real are almost incomprehensible. Like, how can this happen? How can this be happening? So many things happening that they are overwhelming us, that activities like this are so needed to bring us back to our humanity. So if you like this video, if you found it helpful, let me know by liking the video, subscribe if you want more content like this, and I will see you in the next video.